Hey, this is Matt Carbray. This is Matt on Money. We've missed you for a couple of months. It's been a real hectic time for a lot of us. We are reacclimating ourselves back in the office. Some of us have kids that are back to school full time. Some of us have kids that are back to school in some sort of a hybrid with some at-home schooling. And I think we're all starting to realize the value of teachers in this day and age. But what we want to do today is talk about some commentary that I've just recently put out. As a matter of fact, it's going to be going out today, and hopefully you'll get a chance to read it. And if you don't, maybe send us a message and we'll make sure that we get it out to you. But it's entitled COVID-19, A Second Wave of Thinking. Now, all we hear in this day and age is the fear and the threat of a second wave. Regardless of where we are in the country, it could be higher levels of COVID positive tests, increasing of hospitalizations and people, unfortunately, that are passing away from it. So it's all something that we are dealing with depending on where we're located. But what I wanted to do for purposes of today's discussion is to have a second wave of thinking. Now, when I wrote the original commentary when COVID was pretty new back in April, I talked about some considerations that we all should have had prior to COVID. But what COVID did for us is it opened up our eyes so that we could start to think about our planning. You know, a lot of us started to think about our own mortality. And it's when we have events like this, whether it be something like 9/11, whether it be something that's health related, we start to think about that. And we should then in turn start to think about our own planning. So that's what we're going to talk about today, the recent commentary, COVID-19, A Second Wave of Thinking. So the thesis of A Second Wave of Thinking is that there's no time like the present to start putting your goals down on paper. The more time you have to achieve those goals, the better, for a lot of reasons. The more time to save, the more time for compound growth, the more time just to get your arms around what exactly those goals are and what it's going to take to get there. But if we don't start doing that, it's almost the equivalent of trying to go cross country. And just think of the days prior to navigation. Think about the days when you didn't have street signs. You'd probably get from one coast to the other, but would you take the best route? Would you get there most efficiently? We've got to start to put what our various different goals are on paper. And those goals could be, I want to fund an education for my kids. I'd like to put them through a very high quality public institution. And if I can afford to do that, I will. And if my kids want further education or a private or a higher ticket, then they're going to be responsible for it. That's a good goal. How about I want to retire at age 62? What does that look like? What type of money do I need to save now based on what I have already saved to put myself in a position to do that? Think about your charitable intentions. I mean, think about the church you go to. Think about your favorite local charity, your food bank, your Boys and Girls Club. Think about ways that you can give to them. Are you giving right now? You probably are. But how are you giving? Are you just stroking a check? Are there more efficient ways? Are there tax benefits associated with different types of giving? Put all that stuff down. Let's start there. What's the goal? What's the amount in today's dollars for that goal? And when do we want that goal to be fully realized? And that's the first place that I want you to start. Now let's talk about something that I get a difference of opinion, not just with clients, but with spouses. And that's how you feel about your children, whether they're adult children or whether they're young children, and wealth. Now, it's not uncommon to have clients say, Matt, my plan is I want to live a comfortable lifestyle. I want to live a long, healthy life, God willingly. And when all is said and done, I want to leave $1 in the bank account without $1 being owed to anyone. I've made plenty of investment in my kids. They're in a great place financially. I just don't feel like I need to leave them anything. And that's perfectly fine. There's no script that says you have to do things a certain way. Other clients say, you know what? I want to create multi-generational wealth. I want my kids to have wealth. I want their kids to have wealth. And I want to see that continue. But I don't want them necessarily to be aware of the level of wealth that we have. I don't want them to not take that initiative. I don't want them to feel as though I don't have to work as hard. That's perfectly fine too. Or I want them to know everything it is that we have. I want them to know how hard we worked for it. And I also want them to be involved in some of the decisions that we're going to make as a family. What charities do we give to? What causes do we support? Certain gifting that we may do as parents to our adult children so we can see how they act with money that's given to them before they get a much larger sum. There's no perfect way of doing it, my friends. It's your way. And I think that that's why let's have this second wave of thinking. Let's take it a step further than making sure that we've got the foundation of our financial plan in place. Let's start thinking bigger picture. Let's start thinking about what wealth means to you. Let's think about those goals. Let's put them on a piece of paper. Let's get a concrete plan. And let's get something that we have that we can look at as the years progress to see how we're doing. So this is Matt on Money. This is the end of September version. I'll see you next month when I'll be 1 year older and I'll be in the next decade in my 40s and maybe a little bit wiser. So thanks everybody for tuning in. Have a good one.